Hey, Byron, and he who's not to be mentioned, Travis. Why do you always turn up here, Travis? The moles. Yeah, let's just quickly clean up the workbench a little bit. A bit too much to ask, it seems. Keeping things clean. Been a long day, been a long week, with a couple of emergency repairs coming along at the wrong times. But that's the nature of the business. That's the nature of any business, I guess. Always having to prepare for what you're not prepared for. Hey, Full Wave, Christian, PR, Travis, Jason will hit you very hard if that is the case. Okay. Because this is one of Jason's machines, and I'm sure he most certainly will not appreciate having a dead PCH. Hey, Mr. Non. Emergency repairs, some of them are sort of more, I should say, they're priority repairs in an existing large batch. So we're getting 19 volts, well 20 volts, absolutely nothing in terms of milliamps. And the best thing is, though, that it's not going anywhere, as opposed to if it was doing like 200 for about 30 seconds and dropping to zero, then going back to 200 and dropping to zero, that'd probably be dead nans. If it was doing maybe 50 back to zero, 50 back to zero, that might be a dead T2. But we've got 20 volts and absolutely nothing, so there's some hope for this one. Hey, Mike Swanson. Hey, Paul. Can you let me have your PayPal details? Paul, it's just, I'll just do it here. PayPal, PeterDaniels@gmail.com. That's all there is to it. I noticed that they had taken away my... I used to have charity status, or at least I had the ability to take charity items, payments, and that was back when I was mostly using PayPal for open source payments, but that's kind of changed now. Hey, micro repairs. Alright, so the screws are out, which makes sense because we've got a baggie full of screws here. I guess I may as well just randomly dump these in here. I'll have to sort them out later. Fortunately, with things like the 1706 and similar, I can these days at least work most of them out. Sometimes I still have to do the old reduction by first eliminating the ones you know and then going back from that. Yeah, that'll do for now. Hey Oz. So the battery's a little bit messed up. That's not really a problem. It looks like we've got liquid work around here. That's problematic. The first thing we should do, get this battery out. Yeah, seeing that liquid wash there, and that is a wash. It's not liquid that's gone into the machine. This is someone has scrubbed it, and it looks like it's all over, in fact. So this board has been inspected and it has been cleaned, at least manually cleaned. This is not an ultrasonic clean, and if it is an ultrasonic clean, then the ultrasonic cleaner needs a clean. Hey Haken, Tonto. Come on, get the fingernails under there. Okay, that's that. Didn't use rice, no, that's true. I had a machine come in today, and it was a very important data one. And a technician before me they had discovered one of the faults, but the trouble is it wasn't the only fault, and it was just through pure blessing that they didn't lose the customer's data. On the machines like the 1700 and the 1041s and similar like that, you can get down that bottom, it's actually up here on the underside, you can get corrosion visibly on one of the caps, and it's the input regulator, input side of the regulator, and it stands out like, it stands out. But so what happens is people knock off that cap and then the short goes away on that side, but what they don't realize is that there's also often corrosion on the output side. And I guess it's probably thankful that they didn't see that, because it was also shorted. And the trouble is, what they'll often do is they'll knock off the second short, but they won't replace the regulator. And then they fire it up, and the regulator's all messed up from the short damage, and it puts through something that it's not supposed to put through, and the data goes pfft. So we got lucky there. We got very lucky. Check PayPal. PayPal alsjeblieft. Time to go check PayPal. Actually, it comes through on my phone. Crikey, Paul. Jesus, Paul. Paul, I hope that's for a license of software, because that's certainly what it's worth. Obviously, I'm not going to show anyone my full PayPal thing. Paul Howell. That's going to get you a license of software, Paul. Thank you very much. Paul Howell just contributed 106, about 170 US, was it? He needs to say, Paul, you're going to have to, geez. You won a few quid. Legit quid? As in pounds? What you win it on? Shouldn't we ask? It's very generous of you, though. It's a shame there's only basically mod status and no mod status. Would you like to be removed from mods so you don't have the obligation anymore? Not sure what to think. You don't do repairs. You can have an honorary license. Maybe you can choose to, if you know someone who maybe wants a license, let me know, and I can do that on your behalf. How's that sound? At least that way then you know that, yeah, I mean, you don't have to, but if you think of someone, then by all means let me know. 239. Pedro, Mr. Scam You's here. Hello, Mr. I Scam You. How are you, good sir, this evening? Not that I really care, but, you know, I've got to make the words to make it seem like I care. 1342. I've just got to put in the details. This is of this particular board. 1342. Board ID 820 239. Okay, good, Paul. I'll anticipate to hear from you, and consider that offer to be essentially open it indefinitely until such time that you utilize the license, as in you find a should we say victim or a winner? Okay, let's update this. Right, at least we've got the board name there. Hey Jason, I am going through this board and trying to work out what's going on. This is your machine, Jason. Your machine. This is the 20 volts, no charge, so I'm looking for a short on PP bus. Rather than looking for it, it would probably be a far more sensible thing to actually measure for it. I can see someone else has done the jabby there, so, and yes indeed we appear to have a short. Now, yeah, it's not going anywhere either. Yes, Jason, this is the one I just got today from you. Okay, so we've got a hard short on PP bus. Now that could be all the way down to the MOSFETs on the here, because we did see the wash damage here. So let's have a look, see what they are reading. Had 928, the gaping hole in the Wi-Fi section. How do you get a gaping hole in the Wi-Fi section? What happened there? I've never had one of them like that. I get gaping holes on other areas. 10. Okay, it looks like we're quite blessed, I hope. Fingers... Even though that's saying short, notice that the resistance is 5 ohms. So that's actually correct for this area. Which means that our CPU MOSFETs are not damaged. Someone replaced the screen and then it went pop. Okay. I don't know whether they've knocked something. Yeah, maybe they hit a ceramic cap and lost it. Like I said, I am just quite glad that it does not appear to be a CPU short at this point. Scratch marks on there, but they're not crack marks. I'll tell you what, I do wish all the boards would come with these sort of caps rather than... There's another type of cap, they're also very low profile, used in this sort of same place. These ones can take some heat when you're reflowing. The other ones, they just pop like popcorn. And it's quite frustrating because you go to replace one part and you end up having to replace 4 or 5 caps. Okay, that looks... Okay, it's just a bit tarnish. Paul Howe, I'm very glad you don't know me on a personal level in that case. I've been accused of certain things in the recent past. Yeah. Okay, so we've got one corroded cap there. Unlikely to be a culprit. I think the hard thing I'm finding here is to distinguish corrosion areas versus just the wash damage. This is definitely going to be a job for the ultrasonic cleaner too when it's finished, if we get there. I was expecting the arrival of my Apple Lifeboat data recovery system today, but I received a whole bunch of machines from the place, but I didn't get the Lifeboat adapter, so I'm hoping maybe next week. Well, we might have to, ooh, is that one? Or is that just junk? It's just junk. She got her shoes back. It was an accident, I swear. If I was to guess, I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to get heat coming up from one of the speaker amplifiers. Just got a feeling. If you do iPhone repairs, you'll know that the speaker amp section very frequently becomes a point of shorting on the main rail, and it's not too dissimilar to happen here. So I'm going to do a 0.8 volt injection and see what happens. Hey Wes and Teresa. Keith here too. There is a little bit of ickiness around this MOSFET, but I don't think that's going to be our problem. Is that 150 microfarad 6.3 with a bulge on the USB-C line? There's a few of them around. There's so many of them around. I didn't see one with a bulge. There's also, of course, the lighting effects. Anyway, we will load up the board view and schematic, and we'll see where our ideal point of attack is. So 928, no, 239 rather. Okay, schematics. Never decided whether to put it on around here or I can try to put it there. Yeah, we're going to put our injection point here. We've got 8 minutes before Micro is due for his injection. We did get the insulin restocked, thankfully. C3509. Let's see if you're right. C3509. Okay, let's buy the Thunderbolt. There. It's ever so slightly there, yes. I don't even know if the camera will pick that up. That one there, it's... What's that on? That's G3 hot. Nothing too much yet. We're just checking to see whether this cap might be the faulty one, just simply because it has a little bit of a incy-wincy bulge in it. I'll be honest and say I don't think it will be that, but you never know. Let's hope it is, though. It's always easier when you're watching someone else do it. Now, before I remove it, I'll just double check. Okay, so certainty of short. Usually if they're shorted to that severity, they've typically made a bit of a mess of themselves, but you never know. You never know. Oh yeah, here comes the crack right there. Ah, no, there's another one. Okay. Pfft. These ones are sensitive. They're both a bit sensitive. The crack's still there. And that one cracked too. Actually, they cracked awfully easy then. I mean, don't get me wrong, they will crack, but they cracked a little bit too easy. I have a suspicion though that they may have already been, if there's been rework done around here, like it may be that they were already damaged from the prior rework. Because usually you hear them. when you apply the hot air too much, you hear them. You'll hear them go pop. No, they do a rather sharp crack noise. I mean, they're definitely damaged. They're going to have to be replaced. But I wasn't really on them long enough to do that. But, yeah, you never know. Maybe I was. And yeah, we still got the short. So they basically, that is typical collateral damage on boards that are being worked on. On the upside, we've just created a nice little PP bus solder point. It's kind of interesting that I was just talking about this situation and we have a fine example of it. Well, it's not the ones that I was referring to, but yeah, those ones do it too. They're the same as the 1466, 165 and 3437 boards. Those sort of caps, they usually have a cluster of them, and yeah, you try to replace one and you damage three. Jim Allen, the roads have opened up, fortunately. They're not exactly full spec at the moment, but they're getting there. Okay, it looks like my power supply is still sitting on 0.8 volts, 3 amps. I'm going to drop that down to 2 amps. I do down to 1, in fact. I prefer to start a low 1 amp just to see how it's behaving before I do anything more. So in this case, okay, so 257, 1 amp. We've definitely got something very hard shorting here, and like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be one of the speaker amps. I don't know why, but the speaker amps just love to get junk under them, and because they have PV bus on them, it just gets them every time. Hopefully the computer's going to remain stable while I do this, because the kernel still hasn't seemed to have caught up with how bad my programming is for this. Thank you, Micro. We'll just fire this up first. Yeah, we've got a bit of heat going on here, just simply from the hot air rework. Okay, let's apply some current. Nothing jumping up. 2 amps. Okay, there we go. Over here, and yeah. Alright, so at least we located that one. Jason, the day I do that is the day everything will fall apart. Okay, so it's going to be one of these here. Wonder which one it's going to be. And it's a ceramic. There we go. Of course, the fun thing here is the damn thing is right next to these rather sensitive little chaps. So I think what we'll do is we'll pickle it, and then we'll shield it, and then we will hot air it. I'm not really game to try and do a Jessa Jones flick off method for this sort of cap. It'd be just my luck that I will end up tearing up half the trace. You know what? I can do simulated tweezers. Yeah, this is how you do simulated tweezers. That's why it's so nice having two soldering irons. That is more just the junk because it was stuck on the tip of the... I think that's where the floor is. Yeah, that's where it's fractured. You can see the fracture line just there. And now the real test is, do we still have a short? And that's looking much better. We should be approaching 1.2k or so. 2k, yep. Alright. But of course we've got a bunch of work because of prior work. Come on, heat up. Thank you. Thank you. So we've got 4 capacitors at the very least to replace, and we have to ultrasonic it. Okay. Let's see, I just got to go do micro, and I'll be back, so please stand by. Let's see, we'll take the headphones off so you don't hear what I'm saying. The microphone, rather. Okay, we are back. What? I don't respect Pedro. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Pedro needs to return to his proper world, the world of quads and unmanned aerial vehicles, which is going to be a very well-developed segment, no doubt, in the coming years. Now, where did I put my glasses? Yeah, sorry, Miles. That was that was Micro's insulin needle. Okie doke. To get that particular cap, find out what it was. That's on top side, up here. I think that was it. Yeah, I think that was it. And 22 microfarad, 25 volt, 805. Stop. Thank you. That's a pretty big cap. I don't have any of that specific size on hand. I do have them on order, they just haven't arrived yet, so we'll find one instead. Twenty microfarad, 25 volt. Miles twice a day. It's I mean, it's better than the alternative of not being treated, but yeah. Hey, Greg. It's still, it'd be nice if we didn't have to, but we do. Fill the gap, nice big pillows. Okay. Hey, Warren Stamps. See you creeping in there. Sneaking in sideways. So it looks like the 840 has it. Probably in the same area. Because they do just cut paste sections. Stop. And funnily enough, that is the same cap that if I get one of these boards, if I get a 1708 machine in, and it's misbehaving, then it's either the cap, it's either this cap or this cap. Anyway, in this case, we'll just take that one. I'm happy for Apple to be cut pasting their sections. Makes it easy for me. Now the other thing, of course, is we've got to find replacements for those caps that popped. We're going to end up melting these connectors. Oh, my solar installation gets connected up on Tuesday. It's going to be a fun day because that'll be 6 hours, probably, maybe even 8, where I do not have any power. So I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. What does any sane person do with themselves for 8 hours without electricity? Now we're having to manually solder this in because we don't want to upset those speaker connectors. Could rough out the cat village. I suppose so. There's a few things. I could also build the gazebo. There's probably a bunch of things. Depends what the weather's like. To be fair, it is getting fairly mild now, so we are getting below 20 Celsius at night, which is a nice change. Miles, that might be a little bit far, and we don't trust anyone to look after the fur kids. Sadly, that is a very real situation in our lives at the moment, is that we can't trust anyone to understand and look after the rat bags, simply because most people, as it's not intentional or anything, but most people are used to cats being somewhat free roaming. They're not sort of under the idea of you can't let the cats out, or they're strictly not to get outside of the house or anything like that. And because if that happens around here, the chances of finding them again are, particularly because they're not used to outside, are very close to zero. Not to mention there's a tremendous number of threats outside. We've got a very busy road. We've got disused farming equipment and broken down buildings behind us. It's an ideal sort of scenario if you survive the first 6 months as a kitten, but it's not something we want ours wandering around in. When our power's installed, power's off less than 15. Joseph, the main trick is that we're actually having to have the whole switchboard replaced, and we also have to have the line that goes from the house up to the pole to the street line. That has to also be upgraded. Everything's got to be upgraded. Hey Coda, how's it going? Yeah, Jason, it's very difficult to impart to other people just how important it is to be very on top of monitoring. It's more stressful than looking after kids. Because at least kids, if they get out and about, then, people at least will notice. Hey, why didn't my thing switch over? Whereas, or even say if a dog gets out, people see a dog on the road, they're like, oh, that dog shouldn't be there or whatever, and they will think about it and maybe call it into the council or something like that. But when it comes to cats, one, the cats won't even be showing themselves most likely, and two, people can be a little bit malicious towards them, particularly around here. Let's see. No. Sorry, I'm just having, for some reason the compass switches. Okay, looks like we're back. Yep. Kids, you can look in the cupboard. Absolutely correct. Yes. Alright, so we need to replace these 3 caps that decided that they wanted to be popcorn. And they're all 33. What are you? 2, 4, 2, 3, and 4. 2, 3, and 4. They're all 33 microfarad, 16 volt. 33 microfarad, 16 volt. I could replace them all with a single 100 microfarad. A bit naughty of me, but it's awfully tempting. Let me see what I have in my 1206 ceramics. capacitor 1206. Now the caps next to them, these here, they're a different manufacture style. They are more of a e-polymer, and they're not affected. 10 microfarad, 25 volts. No, we're a little short there, buddy. 10, 16, 220. No, way too high. What you got here? 22 microfarad, 6.3. You suck eggs. 50 volts. 560 over the top. This isn't really an area of capacitors that I tend to look around on. 4716s, way too big. Sorry, I'm not deliberately being quiet, I'm just going through my list of a pile of them. 1050 volts, oh come on man. 2.210, 1016. Damn it, it's been a right pain in my backside. God damn it. Yeah, it looks like we're gonna have to just pull some. I'll see if I can find some e-polymer, but I doubt I've got any. Let's see what the 1603 165 can give us. Let's see if these are any good for it. Oh, they're over the top, and they're also only 11 volts. So that's no good. See, the trouble is if I take caps from this board, as in if I just get another donor board and pick them off, they're going to have the same problem. They're basically going to be damaged before I can finish transferring them. So we'll see if there's another board somewhere that can offer us what we want in terms of requirements. 33 microfarad, 16 volt. We're not going to worry about the case size, although we may have to, but we'll see. Not buying Flexboard View. Paul said he'll sponsor my videos with free copy. Oh, we'll contemplate that. Use the 2-tip 1-cap method. I can do that, but I prefer not to, because even in doing that, you do pick up some level of damage, but I mean obviously nowhere near as bad. The 840's got them, but I'm gonna guess they're probably going to be the same issue. These ones might be okay if that's them. We'll check the 840. Okay, does that mean I have to actually be nice to you now? That's going to be a bit tricky. It seems a little unnatural to be nice to particularly the fact that you guys are our sworn opponents in cricket. like I said, it's just unnatural. Okay, these three here look to be okay. Yeah, alright, they're all good. At least these ones, this particular type, they don't tend to pop like the other ones, so we're going to go for these. Yeah, I saw the 332 had them as well. There's a great number of sources of them. The coder's actually secretly thinking, actually, you know what, a freebie would be nice. And I would agree. Although you know it's used for more than MacBooks, right? You know that if you combine the board using schematics for things like your PlayStation or anything else, then yeah, it should do the trick. But of course, that's one of the big reasons why, in spite of Apple being so anti-repair, we have more information on the Apple gear than we do most other products, which is why they're such a goldmine. Oh, Jason, yeah, I did how you had to unset it and then reset it. That was a little weird. Do you think that was maybe from an older version, messing with the configuration settings? Maybe it was using an older PDF location or something. Okay, now I'm going to be naughty and try and take all three at once. I'm going to do that by just rapidly waving my wand around. I can barely fit all three. Everything else is floating. Yeah, looks like I have to. Looks like I'm being informed that what's his name from Coda gets the free copy. Yeah, smart Paul, start with the ground plane one. That's great, yeah. The PP bus plane is thick enough, but the ground plane is certainly many times worse. Yeah, Paul, that's fine by me. That sort of solves everything in one hit, pretty much straight away. Makes it a nice, clean in-out process. So now the coder has to give you special status. Oh, this is downright embarrassing. Come on. Alright, I'm just gonna have to piecemeal it on. I will note that they are not properly on at the moment. These are going to require some hot air assistance. Hey Harold. Yeah, that one's down. And that, we got a wild one. Got caught in the wind. More cat videos. I'll have to check with their talent agents and see if that's permittable. They may not be open to endorsing right to repair. Okay, now the reason why I'm hitting this still with hot air is just to get it to wick under it. You can usually tell when these things have successfully wicked because the solder will tend to go from being rounded on the outside, like a head and pillow style, not quite head and pillow, but to either flat or concave, unless of course you've got too much solder like me. This is only 250 Celsius, so it's nothing too bad. I see this chitter chatter still going on about. Are we still talking about the license? That's a bit of a concern right there. I don't know why that's bulbed up like that. It should not be like that. I don't know whether someone tried to repair that, maybe they replaced it, or worse, they have overheated this controller. Let's hope it was just they had replaced it and used it, you know, the solder just sort of bubbled out. Alright. £20. Would you rather me say it? 20 quid, mate. So you got to tell me, over in the UK, you guys often talk about putting a pony on something. Now, how much is a pony, mate? Like I hear about when they talk about soccer. And they're like, oh, yeah, Freddie put a pony on Arsenal. It's like, what an idiot. So what's a... How much money is a pony? If you was smart, you would have been on West Ham, eh? $500. Flip. That's actually quite a tad. 50 quid. Okay, so now we've got 500 or 50. Jason's on the ball. He knows. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe the coder. The problem is you're not a real man, hey? Real men hang around the pub, eh? And they drink and they bet on stupid soccer games. games that go on for 1 billion hours. Google says £25. Alright, cool. Alright, paying you 25. Alright then, in that case, they're being a little bit dramatic. I mean, £25, it's not the smallest amount of money, but it's also not sort of thing that would normally... I honestly was thinking it was going to be more like 100, 250. But then again, these were just IT workers, so I suppose that's a fair amount of their money. Having a laugh is, yeah. I better stop this, else I might get cockney neck. IT Crowd is essential watching, I must say. It was a marvellous show. You have to watch the UK version as it is, though. I don't believe that there ever was a continuation of the US version beyond the pilot episode, which was a complete and utter disaster. But the UK show version is definitely well watching. Father! It was sad to see Denham go, but I gotta say, Douglas certainly brought in his own charms. Especially one of the best episodes, of course, is the internet episode, and with Douglas and April and the elders of the internet. Right. Okay. Let's see if this boots, eh? I've got a bit of a hot ear. Yes, you gotta have your little spray bottle to cool yourself down. Did you see that ludicrous display last night? Well, it's yeah. Maybe I'm just conditioned to British humour, but I grew up with the goodies and things like that, so it was a shame to see Tim unfortunately passed away due to COVID. I've missed what Harold was saying. Next tool works plugged in the battery port, tells you SMC and ISO work now, working on the new one. Oh, right, Harold, right, okay, he's working on that bit. Okay, so we've got 500. We don't seem to have a display, though. That's a little bit of a concern. And we're kind of stuck on 500. That's more of a concern. Can't tell if I've got a... Okay, do we have cap locks? We do not have cap locks. We do have trackpad. Alright. Okay, we're going up to 600 now. What's going on here? Never a simple job, is it? Now, what I'm worried about is that in the quest for them to try and find the fault, they end up creating faults. That's my worry at this point. It may be a case, sometimes you get really lucky, and I mean really lucky, and you find if you put this into the ultrasonic cleaner, it will come out and it'll work. Okay, interesting, the CPU is not seemingly... Oh yeah, it's getting warm. Hey James Lovelock, doing quite well, thank you, for a Friday evening. I managed to get a couple of priority jobs done, and Well, we found the short on this one, but we fear we have secondary collateral damage caused by something else. The other thing to be concerned about here is the on-off button can sometimes actually be a culprit. So we'll just drop that out. We'll also drop the touchpad off and see if we have any better luck. Don't forget to video the solar install. Well, the solar install is done, but what we do have still is the mains board installation, and I don't think they'd really appreciate me hanging around like a zoomer generation with my camera. 1.2, 1.3, we're charging. This has got me a little stumped. Go on your YouTube dashboard, go monetization, super thanks on. What's super thanks? How does that work? What will that do for me? Let's see. Dashboard monetization. Dashboard, no. Wait, which dashboard are you talking about? You're just talking about under normal YouTube or in the studio live stream? It's a new feature like Super Chat, but people can send highlight or comment on their videos, donations. Ooh, okay, so it's kind of like what, what do you call it? What was that other OBS clone or whatever it does? Let's see. Dashboard. Oh, jeez. No, I'm a little bit lost here, I must say. Studio dashboard. Okay. So studio... Ah, shite. Studio dashboard. Now I've lost my stream. Ah, monetization. Supers, turn supers. Okay, supers. I'm eligible for super thanks. Okay. Super thanks. Cool. Super thanks is now enabled. And I see it says here, the coder, a little something. And I've got a whole bunch of Didamras and one from Patrick Mill. I don't remember the one from Patrick. Patrick, sorry if I didn't comment on that one. $5 from quite some time ago. And Jason, I do believe I saw yours for $4 the other week or so. Alright. Okay, so that's enabled. I guess now what? How do I go back to my live stream? Ach, nee man. Oh, lucky me, it's still running. I can imagine, yeah, it'll always be the 30%. Okay, it just means people can super chat from videos too. Cool. Check my phone too. Oh. Hey, Didamras. Super chat sucks. Super chat from Didamras says, I think it was 30 Australian. Super chat sucks. There you go. Thank you, Didamras. Alright, so we have a problem here. We don't know whether it's display related or what. So what we're going to do is... Well, I'm just going to plug in another external display. Of course, that doesn't always help with these new machines because not all of them have display output enabled until login. Thank you, Ed Boss. the question is, how does that even show up? How much does Patreon? I have a problem with Patreon. Well, I shouldn't say a problem, but the issue with Patreon is that it, for me, feels like it's payment for work to be done, and it's just one of those weird psychological things where people, I'm not talking about people listening right now, at least I hope not, will put in contributions, but then it will be for something they want in the future as opposed to for the work that you've already done. It's a small difference, but it's an important psychological difference in my opinion. Yeah, the best way is always PayPal, or just buy licenses. Okay, so that's done. I prefer to actually plug these in externally, separately, rather than. I know I can chain it through. Hey, Ed Boss just sent 4. Thank you, Ed. It's not too bad actually, Coda. 700 quid a month. Yeah. Jim, you can always repurpose that to someone else. Not that I say I don't expect anyone to actually buy or contribute anything for that. Just being here, being exposed to the YouTube advertising mess, that in itself tends to contribute a fair amount. Okay, we've definitely got CPU heat, though it does feel disproportionate and it feels hotter than it should be in my opinion. But I'm not giving up quite yet. Pop that, so we've got the display off. You need to shill your support methods more. I guess for me, the thing is that I'm so flat out and busy. It's just, I just don't really ever get around to it. You're a struggling game maker and you don't have a Patreon. Is that unusual? What games do you have, and I presume mostly everybody puts their games on Steam these days, do they? I was saying to my wife that even though I'm a programmer and I do a lot of different coding, gaming is something that I have never had the affinity for as a programmer. For some reason I cannot, to use a word I hate to use, grok. I cannot grok gaming programming for some reason. It just, other than simple text ASCII games from the 1980s, beyond that, I feel like a complete doofus and have no idea what I'm doing. Okay, so we're going to go for the next step. We're going to remove the keyboard and trackpad. Basically, we're going to have everything off here other than that. I'm going to put the screen back in. I was genuinely expecting this to come up. Hey, Yez. How's it going? Yeah, I don't know what it is about gaming programming, but it's just obviously, it's a very different mentality required to do gaming. To understand or to keep in your head all the different independent operating parts in a game. Now, what the hell? I've got 500. It's definitely in the CPU. It's not to say it's a dead CPU though, although I am worried because of the fact that they've got this wash here, which means that this... No, no, no. I had this the other day. I swear I had this the other day. Where I had a machine doing this sort of thing. The CPU was getting hot and I thought it was a dead machine, but it ended up not being the case. I'll have to go through my notes and have a look. On the upside, we know it's none of the accessories causing the issue. What I might do is I'll put it onto Apple Configurator and see if it comes up with that. "3D animation was more painful than differential calculus." Yeah, differential calculus, that's fun stuff. Redo the last solderable. Well, the thing is, that last solderable was more to do with the input with the 20 volts and everything like that, so that seems to be all going fine. It's like something, the CPU's trying to come up, but not everything is jumping up. And Yez hasn't recognized that I've already said hello to Yez. Okay. So just stand by for a moment while I plug this into Apple Configurator, which is on the other side of the room, next to the jazz machine, where all that jazz stuff happens. And see if it comes up and says, "This Thunderbolt accessory is not supported." Ah, you did too. Oh no. Oh, that's not good. Let's try it anyway. So power button, hold down for 30 seconds or so. Right. I'm just basically trying to see if I... Damn it, unplug the accessory using too much power. Re-enable. It's weird. Cannot use Thunderbolt accessory. Connect accessory to Thunderbolt port of this Macbook. Yeah, that's not a thing you want to see. I'll give it a go anyway, because sometimes I have had the rare occasion where it was just in a bit of a tizzy. But it's a little unusual. Basically, the only thing I can think of is that the T2 has failed, but the CPU is actually functioning, which is a really unfortunate combination. I'm just going to keep trying for a few more times. Wow, that's a really suck egg scenario. Ach, niemand. Come on, come on, come on. God damn it. Alright, that's not coming up. Bugger. Well, I don't think the CPU is really, maybe... If the T2 files imply the SMC files too, I would imagine so in these sort of scenarios. I'm not specifically sufficiently knowledgeable on these scenarios. But given the fact that the T2 essentially carries the SMC functionality, I guess that's what you should expect. The other possibility is, maybe there is a fault with the chassis. Maybe the keyboard's got damaged, given that we had liquid here. I can see if I can just short the forced DFU mode contacts. Yeah, that's not coming up. Alright. What I'll do is I'll see if I can short the DFU contacts just with a 0 ohm resistor, and maybe it comes up then. I think the problem will be that if the T2 fails, I guess the thing is, I don't know if the T2 emulates or has a section in it that appears as an SMC, or whether it's just completely rewritten. Though I'd imagine that, I don't know, who knows what they're doing when they're designing these things. I'm going to have a look over the board again as well. It doesn't have a T2. Oh, you know what? Pedro's right. It has an SMC. That's why I can't get it up. Thank you, Pedro, for saving me being an idiot. Explains why I can't get it to show up. Alright, in that case, we've got something else holding it down. Welcome to where I look like an idiot because I tried to do something that it can't do. Very easy to do when you're in the middle of a stream. Particularly when you've been dealing with T2s all day, and then you just grab another board and think, right, it's USB-C, must be T2, and wrong. Yeah, I'm starting to get the feeling that we have solved what was the actual problem originally, and now we have to solve what was created during the process of attempting to find the fault. That there bothers me a fair bit, that it's just drowning in flux there. Is that berkelium? It's a U4200. I'm pretty sure that's berkelium. Yeah, I actually got that one right at least. Okay, so they've done something with berkelium. It's a PMIC, yeah. Yeah, I'm just wondering, what did they do? Did they replace it? Did they... So these are your audio amp chips as far as I know. This is all your backlight section. 9239. So yeah, maybe they decided they'd replace berkelium because they felt like that's why they weren't getting any power. Down the rabbit hole we go. At least, the CD, at least, we're getting 20 volts and we're getting power going into the CPU, and the CPU is not, well, let's double check that, make sure it hasn't. Let's see, we're still back at 4, yeah, okay, that's still okay. Framework of releasing schematics, finally. What about the board view though? That's the other thing, is that schematics are very useful, but on modern equipment like this, without the board view, you're still very much up the creek. Unless they have markings on the boards, like silkscreen markings for the parts, and every single one of them at that, then you really do need a board view. There's just no practical way of dealing with it without a board view. I think I don't want to, but I think I'm gonna have to swap out this berkelium. There's just too much flux around it for me to not suspect it. That FET we started on the start of the board looked pretty. The thing is, even if the FETs and all that are bad, whether they are or not, the point is we are getting 20 volts in through all this, the CD30 USB-C stage. So that stage is all working nicely. And we're charging as well, which means our ISL is also working nicely. Oh, the CPU FETs. Well, we did check those and we didn't have any... Yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of sort of post-wash gnarliness. But overall, they're fairly clear. Yeah, that's probably about the only... And that was just a bobble of dry trash. Certainly nothing there sort of making me feel concerned. I'm going to go back to the berkelium. Pedro said that when that whole framework thing came out and everyone was like, yeah, true open source and all that sort of stuff, it's all just marketing hype. I don't think any of them really ever get to truly do that. I mean, most of them don't even have the rights to do that, as far as I know, the legal right, because they're not even the creators of those schematics and board views. Well, it was probably just a bad pull, but we'll keep that aside. Okay, Coda, good luck with your work. Send me an email, by the way. Can you send me an email and just about the license, and I'll get that sorted out for you from this end, because I'm going to have to do it manually. That actually came up awful easy. I'm gonna bet that is leaded solder. Thanks, Coda. Do that, and I'll get back to you. And thank you, Paul Howe, for his contribution, which is now contributing further down the line. That is a really crappy cut of wick. Hey Paul, no problem at all. Thank you for passing on your generosity there. I know we can't always do it, you know, we do have our own personal priorities that we have to attend to first, so when people are able to do that, you know, it's definitely a generous gesture. It looks a little bit scary doing the Berkeleyan, but they're not too bad. They're kind of like the audio I see on a iPhone 7, things like that. The bigger trick for me is actually finding a replacement one. Which, lo and behold, oh dear God, that's... yeah, it's hard to say if that's worse or not. I think the last contribution I put out recently was with, trying to think now, the ImGUI toolkit that I use for building the interface for FlexBoard View, and we also use it for OpenBoard View. There was another project that I wanted to contribute to, but the actual owner of the project didn't want the contribution. And I was like, okay, right. So I just passed it on to someone else. I tried to get Lewis to contribute to the GNU DD Rescue, and Antonio from DD Rescue, the GNU version, the one that we all use, because that's definitely a project that has saved countless amounts of data for people. Can't win all open source software, some people want to say. Yeah, I'm not sure, maybe Trady Trev, maybe the project is being funded by someone else or something. Or, you know, sometimes people just prefer not to get payments, and I can understand that. As I was saying before, sometimes there's an implication of what a payment, what the payee is expecting back. You know, some people want their names in the contributors list or something like that. And sometimes that's not always an option. Yeah, sometimes you also get commercial backings, if you're lucky. Hey Francis. Feels a little bit murky to me. We'll see how we go. Let me guess, I've pretty much ruined my Berkeleyan stencil. No, thankfully that's not it. What about the one in the middle? Definitely not it. And like a magic trick, I've taken my chip away. Ah, for flip's sake, come on, let go of the chip. Alright, so that one doesn't fit. Obviously I do not have, or at least I'm not aware of, a stencil specifically for this chip, so I'm just looking for something that has the correct pitch. Yep, like that one. Looks like I got a bit of junk in it, so I better wash that. Well, Paul, I'm sure, well, I know Phil will very much enjoy having that license. Especially now that he's become yet another MacBook junkie. So many MacBook junkies these days. We've got Graham of Adamant IT becoming more and more of a MacBook person, and you've got my mate Vince, who just has now really got the addiction. Pedro knows all about that addiction, because Pedro and I know each other from back in our model aircrafting days, and he was doing a lot with quad development. And I'm not sure why we bumped into each other, but needless to say we did. But he was doing all the fancy quad stuff. I wasn't. Hey Thomas, welcome. Oh geez, that looks like a Gordian worm coming out of a praying mantis, or a spider, or a what's the other, grasshopper. If you don't know what a Gordian worm is, or a horsehair worm, I recommend you do not look up videos of it. Okay. But needs to say, it's a parasite that has a water life cycle in it, and it ultimately messes with the brains of the creatures it's infected and forces them to dive into water sources like ponds and stuff like that. Makes them drown themselves, and then that's when it frees itself from constraints of its host. And it's a little bit terrifying the first time you see it. Yeah, it's a bit like the aliens thing, except, it just keeps going and going and going and going. It's like, when will it stop? Nature is cruel and disgusting. Trady Trev, I've witnessed it in real life, but knew about it previously from nature shows. Nature shows are one of the things that if I ever get time, I do very much enjoy watching them. Not the sensationalized ones. I grew up with, what was his name? Harry Harrison, I think it was. And yeah, I think it was Harry Harrison in Australia. And then of course you did have always David Attenborough. And then after Harry sort of moved out of there, I think it was the Bush Tucker Man. It was a little bit of a different approach on it. Of course, Steve Irwin did his thing, but I was not really a Steve Irwin. But I've got nothing against Steve Irwin, and it's very tragic what happened to him. And he certainly did a lot for the awareness of wildlife and nature and things like that. But I wasn't really one to watch his stuff. A little bit too over the top for me. It was like watching Jim Carrey or something in nature style. By the way, I'm doing 250 centigrade here, so that's why it's taken a while. It wasn't really an even reflow, that one, so... Oh, there goes the buckle. Bugger. Harry Butler, that's it, thank you. Knew someone would know it. And then of course I lived up in Northern Territory, out in the bushland for a few years. And of course I lived in Africa for a few years. And spent a fair bit of time up in the North Queensland tropics, still here. I enjoy getting around and seeing the different shit. Hopefully I didn't fracture that. Doesn't look like it, but... Why are you not letting go? I feel like it's not letting go because there's, I don't know, attachment issues. There we go. These are all excess dregs from the spread of solder paste. Cape Town is a very nice area. The vineyards outside of Cape Town, they have a magical property about them that it's actually very difficult to remember what they're like. You can travel to the glorious vineyards of Cape Town, and good luck remembering the next day. It's like it wipes your memory somehow. Hey Warren, back again. Or did I just not notice you the first time? Sure, magic. Magic. I hate holding on to these things too tightly because they are, those little wafer chips. And by golly, they get upset. See you later, Harold. Thanks for dropping in, always appreciate it. One of these days I'll get to that gear that you've sent me. I must say though, Harold, that little mini shifting spanner, not spanner, plumber's wrench type thing, that's a truly awesome piece of tool. Really love that little thing. It's excellent. Parallel jaws, adjustable thingy. Where'd I put my stencils? Final stages of madness. Paul can't remember where he put his stencils. I got a big container that I'd put all my stencils in and I cannot find it. Oh well. The tool I'm talking about, it's a parallel jaws adjustable wrench. It's made by Nipex. It's a really beautiful piece of engineering, if you ask me. I mean, look at this thing. This thing is, it's just fantastic. It's well made, it feels good to use it, it does its job, there's no, crazy slop or anything like that. Now, the reason why he sent me this, I suspect, is because it allows you to clamp down on the connectors that you need to make. But aside from that, it's a damn useful little piece of tool. Very nice, very nicely made. And yeah, so what is it? It's made in Germany. Well, that explains a good portion of it. But when I first saw this, I thought, this is fantastic. I don't know why Harold had sent it to me, but it was like, oh, I love this already. And then I realized when I saw the connectors, it's to help clamp the connector, to make the connectors. A bit like the old days when you had to use a vise or something to correctly do your IDE cables or your floppy drive cables and things like that. Unless you wanted to ruin them, you need to have parallel crush. So that's what that's for. But it's going to be a much loved tool outside of that purpose. See you later, Travis. Alright, so we've got our Berkelium chip down here. And we need to put it on there. Kind of not game to pick it up. So these are cranky little chips. So pin 1 is down here, and pin 1 is, I have no freaking idea where pin 1 is. I think it's, yeah, there it is, I can see it. Anyway, I just wanted to say big thanks to Harold for sending those, because it's a really nice piece of tool. It really is. Hey, Mr. Tritz, welcome. And I'm paranoid that I haven't quite... So when the chips and balls are this small, it's very hard to get a good gauge on whether you've landed in the pads or not. Okay, we're going to go down to 70% air. This thing is not going to need... It's just going to need some heat. Fire truck. You really don't need a lot of flux with these things. Like, I didn't have a lot of flux on there in the first place, but it just goes to show you really don't need a lot. This is why I have the tremendous level of respect for people who do iPhones for a living. I mean, I can understand I'll do an iPhone periodically. Like, I've got a couple of iPhone 7 audio repairs to do. But for people who actually do it as an income, that's really up there, in my opinion. That's some serious talent, because you're dealing with this sort of fickle, annoying, pain in the butt, has its own personality, mood, gets ticked off, runs around, doesn't do what you want sort of behavior. And they actually manage to make a living out of it. Like, I'd be insane before that happened. I mean, okay, sure, I'll do a TriStar or I'll do a audio IC, something like that, but the rest of it, okay, maybe when people knock off the battery data line, MOSFET, level shifter, things like that, but really, beyond that, no thanks. Poor chip felt like one of the Japanese islands during the last tsunami. Yeah, that's a pretty reasonable representation. By the way, if this doesn't work, I'm dropping out because it's midnight and I've got other things to do. I've got to go and deplete a mother load of nitrate that I found in the ground in 7 days. Desperately needed the nitrate because 5, 16, 600, 700, 600, 700, 700, 800. Yeah, kind of maybe might be booting now. I don't know. But yeah, so if you do iPhones for a living and you actually make a living out of it, I tip my hat to you. And like the CPU, the people who do the CPU replacements and things like that, that's just ludicrous. Madness. I mean, I kind of expect it from people like Jason Vilma because he's mad. I mean, he's just a madman. I mean, you just watch his videos and you know the guy's got a serious sort of Floridian madness syndrome set into his brain. So you expect him to do things like that. But normal people? Good God. Hey Rilla, welcome. Right, really hoping this works. Look, it's going to be unfortunate if it doesn't. Because like I said, unfortunate in the sense that it probably was going to be a salvageable machine. And maybe it no longer is. I hate that. One of the, well, I was saying earlier tonight, one of the priority jobs that came through, it almost became a non-repair, non-recoverable machine. Thankfully, the person just stopped when they knocked the first cap off, and thankfully they happened to just pick the one that had the most corrosion on it, and that was the V input supply rather than V output supply. If it had gone the other way, then they wouldn't have any data. Stop showing my age? How so? What did I do this time? Oh wait, my head got in the way? My head got in the way and you can see how old I was. Hey Micromage. The balding spot and the greyness. No, still looks like we're still stuck. I get tricked thinking that there's an Apple logo there. There isn't. It's wishful thinking. Yeah, so we're definitely charging. We're not doing much more than that. Let's try on the other side. Same story, charges up, all the same. So yeah, the whole USB-C input section is perfectly good. I would not be surprised if this is in fact running, but we have a problem with the screen. I get the feeling that this is running. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of Harold's chipmunks, put a USB-C diggy on, plug it in. We are alive. Now I'm just going to see if we get a much wanted. Give us a green blink. Come on, green blink. Cat blocks isn't working though, yeah, that's a problem. It's just weird that the CPU's running, or at least we're getting heat in there. But that's about it. Damn it. So I remember once before, and it was on live stream too, I was going along and it was a similar sort of situation. We're getting power and everything, but nothing. But then all of a sudden cat blocks popped up. After quite a few minutes, it was like, hey, I'm alive. And I was like, you are. But what could be messing us up here is that maybe there's a problem with the chassis. So we'll disconnect this, we'll take it out of the chassis, and I will do the same thing, and I'll put the USB-C plug, the chipmunk in, and see if maybe we get lucky there. Bed and attack tomorrow. Yes, I think we might have to. But I just want to try this out of the chassis situation. I mean, I will agree, every now and then, rarely, you will get everything coming up. Well, I shouldn't say rarely. Every now and then you will get everything coming up, and it seems like it's drawing the right currents and all that sort of stuff, and the CPU's just dead anyway. I'm trying really hard to not have to endure that. Let's see. Where's my multi-way adapter? This display was one of the first things that Jim Hook sent me. Okay. See if anything happens. Greg, yeah, I was pretty sure they should be fine to program BIOSes. Okay, that was interesting. 5 volt just blinked out and came back. Let's see if it does that again. Okay, we seem to have a periodic resetting of 5 volt, or at least it seems to lose. I'm just trying to see if I can get a current indication what's going on there. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. .7. 1.8. All the CPU voltages and everything seem good. Alright, you're gonna have to dig into this later. I think that's it for tonight. So we kind of had success, but we may have kind of had the final prize stolen from us, but we're still able to go. We'll see. We'll see how we go tomorrow. What I might do is actually ultrasonic this board before I test it again. It could be a case of there's a signal being held down by flux and junk somewhere. So we'll see how we go tomorrow. Alright, that's it for tonight. I'm out of here. You take care. Thank you again, Paul. I'll get that on to Coda for his license, and I'll catch you all the next time. Until then, catch you later.